Welcome to the Resiliency Challenge. This is an online educational and self-assessment tool, developed under NCHRP 2125, Strategies for Incorporating Resilience into Transportation Networks. This NCHRP study is being conducted to develop tools and guidance to improve resilience of the multimodal transportation network. The training consists of 3 modules to introduce the audience to the concept of resiliency and to help the participant be better prepared for a disruption. Resilient transportation systems are an important and urgent need in the face of growing disruptions from environmental and man-made threats. It should be no surprise that efforts to become more resilient has become an important topic within the transportation research community. The research team was asked to examine the impacts of transportation network disruptions and supply chains. On behalf of this research, we invite you to take the Resiliency Challenge. The research team has assembled 3 information training modules intended to provide important baseline information and resources around 3 key topics. 1. Transportation infrastructure resilience. 2. Supply chain resilience. 3. Cybersecurity, data network resilience. Packaged as the Resilience Challenge, each 20-minute module is designed to introduce resiliency information and resources to state and local agencies as well as their stakeholders. This tool is intended to help public and private organizations in their development of resiliency efforts in order that an organization has the plans and tools available to successfully adapt to adverse events that may disrupt their activities. As part of the tool development phase of the project, we ask that you complete 1 or more of the Resilience Challenge modules and provide feedback about your experience. We appreciate your willingness to help us in our research. To start the module, hit the Complete and Continue button below to get a quick overview on how to use the training software.
Before beginning the Resilience Challenge, a number of items should be pointed out to make your user experience a smooth one. First, the top right portion of the screen, highlighted with a red box, provides you with the ability to move forward and backwards throughout the module sections. It also includes a drop-down, which allows you to directly select the section you wish to navigate to. The green box keeps a running tally of your accumulated points across the 3 Resiliency Challenge modules. There is also a drop-down for more features which will allow you to exit the module or sign out. Second, the controls along the bottom of the screen, highlighted by an orange box, includes a play button, along with a time bar allowing you to fast forward, rewind, and select points within the video. It also contains a running clock versus the total video time, a control to adjust the volume, and the option to view the module in full screen mode. Third, the video can be played and paused by clicking on the play button, or by pushing the spacebar on your keyboard. Lastly, the Complete and Continue button can be selected at any point to complete the section and continue on to the next section of the Resilience Challenge module. And one more thing, periodically throughout the Resilience Challenge, links to resources and websites are discussed and provided. While these links are not active during the challenge, we have created a resource page with working links to all of the referenced materials. The resource page is provided at the completion of the challenge.
The National Cooperative Highway Research Program, NCHRP, is a research program funded by state DOTs and administered by the Transportation Research Board at the National Academy of Sciences. Resilience has become an important topic within the transportation research community. There are approximately 20 projects addressing some aspect of resilience under the NCHRP umbrella, either completed or underway. For more information about other NCHRP resilience research, visit the NCHRP homepage at www.trb.org. The Resiliency Challenge is designed to introduce resiliency to state and local agencies as well as their stakeholders. This tool is intended to help public and private organizations in their development of resiliency efforts, in order that an organization has the plans and tools available to successfully adapt to adverse events that may disrupt their activities. In 2012, a special committee formed by the National Research Council published a seminal report, Disaster Resilience: A National Imperative. That report noted that disaster resilience is everyone's business, and is a shared responsibility among citizens, the private sector, and government. The definition of resilience from that report, the ability to prepare, plan for, absorb, recover from and successfully adapt to adverse events, is applied to this current NCHRP effort. The recovery continuum shown on this slide is an adaptation of the Federal Emergency Management Agency's National Disaster Recovery Framework. The framework starts with preparation for an anticipated disaster event, followed by response activities immediately post-event. Short-term recovery activities can take months to accomplish. Long-term recovery can take years to return a community or business to a pre-disaster state. The continuum is considered circular in nature, as preparation for the next event is informed by post-disaster activities, as displayed in the graphic. You can learn more about the National Disaster Recovery Framework at www.fema.com.
Now that we've defined resilience, we will discuss how resilience applies to data and cybersecurity. Let's begin by reviewing several intended learning outcomes from this module. 1. We will define cybersecurity and resilience of data systems. 2. We will review trends in cybersecurity and discuss case studies of a recent cyber attack on the transportation system. 3. We will examine resources and tools available to support cybersecurity. And 4. Explore the impacts of cyber attacks on connected transportation networks. In the next 2 slides, you will be asked several questions about your organization and your role in it. These questions are intended to help the potential audience for the research tools and provide some initial data points for current awareness about data and cybersecurity issues. The Resilience Challenge has been created to address resiliency planning needs identified during the research. One identified need is the creation of benchmarks about the status quo among public and private organizations, as it relates to planning for resilience and business continuity. Benchmarking will allow future progress in resilience topics to be measured. Before proceeding to the module content, this survey is designed to gather baseline information about participants. Please respond to the questions by choosing the response that best represents your workplace and your job. When you have completed each question, please click on the Submit Answer button to get to the next survey question, until all of the questions have been answered. Thank you.
So, what do we mean by cyber resilience and cybersecurity? How do they differ? Cyber attacks seek to access, control or destroy computer systems or information technology networks, also referred to as IT networks. Cybersecurity is the practice of protecting IT networks and data from digital attacks by identifying potential risks and establishing appropriate strategies to defend against cyber attacks. Cyber resilience refers to an organization's ability to identify, respond to, and recover quickly from an IT or data security incident. There are many reasons why cybersecurity and resilience are critical to the transportation community. Transportation network operations are increasingly dependent on data. The links in a supply chain are connected by data. And, increasingly our mode of transportation is linked to the infrastructure by data. Bottom line, disruptions to transportation data networks can be catastrophic. A resilient approach to cyber attacks involves accepting that a cyber attack may be successful, no matter how well an individual or organization prepares. Resilient organizations have business continuity plans for when an attack gets through defenses. In essence, cyber resiliency means security plus continuity. Transportation networks include not only infrastructure, but also the organizations, people, policies and data that are all interconnected to make networks functional. The expansiveness and interdependencies of transportation networks underscore their vulnerability to cyber attacks and the need for resiliency planning. The unique network dynamics between infrastructure and data make cybersecurity particularly important to the transportation industry. For example, the public nature of the highway system requires that roadside devices like signal cabinets, message board controllers, weather stations, and remote work sites be secured, as they provide access points to data networks. It is fair to suggest that advances in connected and automated transportation technologies are outpacing the necessary cyber resiliency planning. Many public and private organizations contacted during the course of this NCHRP research indicated that there remains much work to be done to educate and become more vigilant about cyber attacks.
To understand the importance of cybersecurity, consider the following statistics about cyber attacks. Data from 2020 shows that there were approximately 2,000 cybersecurity attacks per day worldwide. That equals one attack every 90 seconds. Cyber attacks are becoming more frequent. Recent data suggest attacks grew significantly during the COVID-19 pandemic. Cyber attacks touch every sector of government and industry, and any individual or organization is susceptible to an attack that can have enormous financial, social, and organizational impacts. The most common and one of the most detrimental attacks to business continuity is distributed denial of service, DDoS attacks. A denial of service attack floods a server with internet traffic to shut down or overwhelm a network, making it inaccessible to its intended users. It is projected that DDoS attacks will climb to over 15 million by 2023. The costs associated with global cybercrime are staggering and are projected to reach $10.5 trillion annually by 2025. As statistics in the previous slide demonstrate, cyber attacks are increasing. At the same time, as transportation networks rely more heavily on automation and the Internet of Things, they become more vulnerable as well. The Internet of Things describes a vast network of connected items and people, which collect and share data about the way they are used and the environment around them. As transportation networks become more automated, connected devices in the network become portals susceptible to cyber attacks, increasing vulnerability. A number of trends are contributing to the vulnerability of transportation data networks. Cloud computing provides cost-effective on-demand access via the Internet to computing resources, applications, servers, data storage, and more, hosted at a remote data center managed by a cloud services provider or CSP. While the CSP holds primary responsibility for security measures and protocols, data security in a cloud environment is a shared responsibility between the provider and users. In a cloud environment, strong passwords and the principle of least privilege are important best practices. The principle of least privilege means that users in an organization only have access to the data they need to complete their work. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of Americans working from home skyrocketed. Remote working raises a number of additional cybersecurity risks. Office systems typically provide firewalls and other protections that may not exist in home office environments, especially when workers use personal or mobile apps to complete work tasks. In 2020, Info Security magazine reported that phishing emails jumped over 600% during the early months of the COVID pandemic. In a phishing scheme, fraudsters pose as a legitimate organization using emails, texts, or phone calls to convince the target to turn over personal or protected information. A data breach is a cybersecurity violation where confidential data is exposed to an unauthorized party. Malware and ransomware are two measures used by cybercriminals to access protected data. Malware is computer code specifically designed to disrupt, damage, or gain access to a computer system. Ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts a user's data. Attackers demand a ransom in exchange for the decryption key. Phishing emails are often the delivery method for either malware or ransomware attacks. The market for cybersecurity protection software is growing tremendously as the incidence of cybersecurity attacks becomes more likely. While many products exist to keep personal and organizational data safe, it is critical to employ good cybersecurity practices. These include the use of strong passwords, not opening emails from unknown sources, and making software updates when they become available.
Cyber attacks can happen to any industry, organization, or individual. In recent years, there have been several prominent cyber attacks that have affected the transportation industry. In 2017, the NotPetya cyber attack impacted hundreds of companies around the world, including AP Moller-Maersk, one of the world's largest container shipping lines. The malware attack, attributed to the Russian military, was launched through an accounting software. The attack on Maersk froze company computers and servers across their network within minutes, destroying 49,000 laptops and 3,500 servers. The company was able to rebuild its network over several weeks due to a single domain server in its Ghana office that happened to be offline due to a power outage. AP Moller-Maersk estimated the attack cost the company $200 to $300 million. The White House has estimated the total cost of the NotPetya attack worldwide was approximately $10 billion. More recently, in April 2021, the largest fuel pipeline in the U.S., Colonial Pipeline Company, was hacked, resulting in major fuel shortages up and down the East Coast. In this instance, the cyber criminals launched the ransomware attack through a compromised password. In just 2 hours, hackers were able to steal 100 gigabytes of data. The cyber criminals known as the Dark Side demanded $4.4 million in ransom. Colonial Pipeline paid the ransom to get the decryption key. But the attack caused Colonial to proactively shut down its pipeline system, the first shutdown in company history. Service was resumed 1 week later, but not before fuel prices were impacted nationwide.
There are several important lessons learned from the case studies we just reviewed. First, cyber attacks do not conform to traditional organizational or geopolitical boundaries. Cyber attacks can happen to any individual or organization at any time. Second, there is no such thing as a zero cyber risk environment. Organizations and individuals should plan with the assumption in mind that at some point, an attack will be 100% successful. While the use of virtual private networks or VPNs and other decryption mechanisms are critical for keeping data safe, the cybersecurity of an organization is only as strong as the weakest link. As seen in the Colonial Pipeline attack, the decision by a single employee to reuse an old password likely resulted in one of the most significant fuel shutdowns in recent history. Third, relying on just the prevention of a cyber attack is not an effective strategy. Companies like Maersk suggest that organizations take steps to automate cyber threat detection. Fourth, regular software and application updates are critical. Many software updates address vulnerabilities found in computer operating codes. Finally, it is essential that organizations develop effective business continuity plans. Organizations should have a playbook that spell out the steps required to maintain operations, even if all data networks shut down. Cyber insurance protection should be a consideration to reduce incident remediation costs. For more information about these and other cybersecurity tips, visit the Computer Security Resource Center at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, U.S. Department of Commerce. Before moving to the last section of this module, let's do a quick recap. we began by defining resilience and the role of cybersecurity. We said, cyber resilience equals cybersecurity plus business continuity. Next, we highlighted the importance of cyber resilience by presenting recent statistics, illustrating how detrimental and pervasive cybersecurity attacks have become. We noted that in 2020, cyber attacks occurred at a rate of 1 every 90 seconds. We further illustrated the potentially devastating effects of a cyber attack by discussing 2 case studies: the NotPetya attack in 2017 and the more recent attack on Colonial Pipeline Company. Then we reviewed some of the lessons learned from those attacks. Now, we will conclude this Resilience Challenge module by introducing additional resources that can support you and your organization in your efforts to become more cyber resilient. In the last section of this module, we introduce you to a number of resources and tools that you and your organization can use to become more cyber resilient. The resources we will discuss represent efforts at the state and federal levels to address the growing threat of cyber attacks. It must also be noted that another product of this NCHRP project is the production of a playbook. The playbook will further describe how the Resilience Challenge modules and related resources can be used to engage public and private stakeholders in the transportation system in collaborative efforts to be more resilient.
One of the first resources to be aware of is the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA. CISA is an agency of the federal government that leads the national effort to understand, manage, and reduce risk to our cyber and physical infrastructure. CISA works with partners across government and industry to defend against today's threats, while securing critical infrastructure against threats on the horizon. Established in 2018, CISA was created to work across public and private sectors, challenging traditional ways of doing business by engaging with government, industry, academic, and international partners. CISA helps organizations better manage risk and increase resilience using all available resources, whether provided by the federal government, commercial vendors, or their own capabilities.
Information Sharing and Analysis Centers, or ISACs, help critical infrastructure owners and operators protect their facilities from cyber and physical security threats. The ISAC concept was enabled by a presidential directive signed in 1998. The federal government then asked each critical infrastructure sector to establish organizations to share information about threats and vulnerabilities. Many ISACs formed in 1999. The National Council of ISACs formed in 2003, and today represents 26 industry-specific groups. There are currently ISACs related to transportation for the automotive industry, the aviation industry, the maritime industry, and there is an ISAC for surface transportation, public transportation, and over-the-road bus operators. You can learn more about ISACs by visiting the National Council of ISACs at www.nationalisacs.org, or the Center for Internet Security at www.cisecurity.org. The American Trucking Association has also formed an ISAC called Fleet Sci Watch. On the next 2 slides, Kevin Grove, ATA, Director of Safety and Technology Policy, discusses the Fleet Sci Watch program and how cybersecurity is evolving in the trucking industry.
The Fleet SciWatch program at ATA was really born out of 2 needs that our industry is really starting to experience. The first one is individual fleets are starting to realize that cybersecurity is an important consideration. And at ATA, we really saw a need to help educate them on kind of what best practices are or what threats are out there that they need to be thinking about. And also try to help give them some tools for doing some self-assessment. Try to help them learn what they need to be doing and kind of how they can improve themselves if they are lacking in a particular area, or if they do identify a gap in their operations that could be a threat, how they can improve themselves and how they can kind of better their security and reduce their risk. And that's important. And the program is kind of built as a way to educate, outreach, and help them assess. The second goal, which we haven't really attained yet, is that if we can learn more about how individual fleets are assessing themselves, we can really try to take a 10,000-foot view and see how our industry needs to assess itself. If there are certain types of gaps in our industry as a whole, or certain threats that our industry needs to consider more than others, we can look at that and say, we can improve how we do our outreach. We can improve how we do our assessment by tailoring it to kind of meet these gaps that we know our industry needs to really focus on. And then that kind of helps improve the efficiency of doing all this in the first place. We really want to be able to kind of help make our members effective and efficient at dealing with this, and really ultimately set up kind of a continuous improvement mentality. We want them to be able to think about where they are now and how to get to the next step quickly and cost effectively. I think the pandemic has really shifted how people view trucking and the moving of goods around the country in terms of what is critical infrastructure. The supply shortages that we experienced early on in the pandemic, and especially more recently with things like the chip shortage and the moving of other critical goods within the economy, has really, I think, highlighted how the trucking industry is a critical component within our infrastructure. And in addition to that, how some recent cybersecurity threats need to be viewed differently now that we are critical infrastructure. I think if you had talked to our industry 5 or 10 years ago, the major concern was that cybersecurity could lead to criminal intent in terms of threats. The idea that it could be used for human trafficking, or that it could be used for theft of goods, or that it could be used for tracking information about what's being moved and where in order to glean non-public information about what's going on. Whereas now, I think there is more thinking that as critical infrastructure, we may be under threat from other kinds of actors that are not interested in financial gain from cybersecurity threats, but are interested in disrupting the activities of trucking simply for the sake of disrupting them and causing problems within our infrastructure. I think that has changed how we view the needs to protect ourselves and who we need to partner with in order to do that effectively.
In 2018, the American Association of Transportation Officials, or AASHTO, formed a committee on transportation system security and resilience. The committee charter indicates its purpose as preparation for and response to both natural and human-made threats, shocks and stressors to the transportation system. The committee coordinates national efforts, identifies best practices, and fills research gaps to promote resilient and secure transportation systems across the country. The committee provides a forum to state DOT members to advance state-of-the-practices and awareness of transportation infrastructure security and resilience through training, technical assistance, the exchange of information, and best practices. The committee also works to shape and implement national policy affecting transportation infrastructure protection and resilience. It oversees the development of technical resources and tools for state DOTs to perform risk-based identification of potential impacts, plan for system adaptation needs, and prepare for response and recovery of impacted transportation systems. The Transportation System Security and Resilience Committee authored the original problem statement for this NCHRP research. For more information about the committee, visit www.ctssr.transportation.org. Before concluding this cyber resilience module, it should be noted that the inspiration for the Resilience Challenge came from a similar training tool developed for the U.S. Department of Defense, called the Cyber Awareness Challenge 2022. The purpose of the DoD Challenge is to influence behavior by focusing on actions that authorized users can engage to mitigate threats and vulnerabilities to DoD information systems. The one-hour end-user training module is open to the public and can be found at https://public.cyber.mil/. In addition, National Guard units across the nation trained to defend against cyber warfare are being called upon to assist state and local governments. According to GNC Magazine, a publication for public sector IT managers, governors in 27 states have called on the National Guard to help state and local agencies with cyber incident response and remediation, cyber defense analysis, election security planning, threat assessment, and interagency planning. In 2021, the Michigan DOT, along with other state agencies, received training and assistance from the Michigan National Guard. This completes the technical portion of the Cyber Resilience Challenge. Before you leave, we ask that you complete a short quiz to assess what you have learned and answer a few questions about your experience taking the challenge. At this point, we want to assess your cyber resilience knowledge based on the information presented in this module. Please complete the 6 questions in the following assessment. Before we go, we have one final request. We would appreciate your feedback to a few questions about the usefulness and relevancy of this Resilience Challenge module on cybersecurity. This feedback questionnaire will conclude the Resilience Challenge Cybersecurity module. We wish to thank you for taking the time to participate and provide your feedback. We hope the information presented in this and other modules is helpful to you and your organization in your resilience efforts. Results from the Resilience Challenge and other products of this research will be posted to the NCHRP project website as they become available.